I would like to introduce you to Global Impact Solutions, where we believe the future is global. The team is composed of Sam Dick from Belgium, Heather Dixon from South Africa, and myself, Anna Angela Lopez from Canada. We are honored to participate in the gLocal 2020 evaluation competition. Global Impact Solutions, also known as GISS, is an international development research and evaluation consultancy that uses evidence to support and advance developmental and humanitarian needs around the world while providing innovative and creative solutions. Our area of expertise that apply to this proposal include our experience in education, youth empowerment, child and human rights, and leadership. In addition, we have working experience in South Africa and speak both English and Afrikaans.
Play Africa is a museum that fosters diversity, social inclusion, and learning through play, either through targeted programs with educators, caregivers, and children, or through free play and experiential learning. Key Play Africa programs include Bridges of Peace, Children's Voices, Creative or Free Play, Sensory Play, Developing Together, and targeted educator workshops and training on play-based learning. This diagram provides useful indicators for evaluating learning through play. We will be using some of these indicators throughout our evaluation. It is key to understand the educational context that Play Africa operates in. An unequal schooling system translates into low educational outcomes, such as only 35% of children being able to read by the age of 12, and only 20% of South African schools having a library. This highlights the gap that Play Africa aims to bridge, and that the foundation of children's education is fundamental for their schooling success later on. GISS has conducted a stakeholder analysis of Play Africa's key stakeholders and has determined these to be students or children, educators and caregivers, and other nonprofit organizations. GISS aims to assess the change in attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors as a result of Play Africa programs, specifically the support for and greater understanding of children's rights, xenophobic attitudes, attitudes towards diversity, and attitudes and evaluation of learning through play, and how all of these contribute to Play Africa's overall vision and impact. The following are some proposed qualitative evaluation questions to consider while observing how caregivers and children interact with and engage with exhibits and how Play Africa programs are facilitated.
To assess the impact and the changes in attitudes, beliefs, and behavior of its participants, GISS proposes a quasi-experimental approach consisting of two different options. The ideal one being a differences in differences design, with a fallback option of a simple pre-test, post-test. This design will then be combined with a sample from the general population and a comparison of this sample with the participants. To support the quantitative methods, we will also deploy observing participatory approach, which will also help evaluate expected immediate outcomes. Our ideal design is a differences in differences approach. This will allow us to compare a treatment and comparison group that are as similar as possible. The treatment group here are participants who completed the programs of Play Africa, while the comparison group are people who were selected for the programs but did not actually participate, meaning that the two groups are very similar except for their participation. This will limit the noise of lurking variables and provide a strong statistical effect. Second, with this approach, we would not need a baseline of our participants who took part in the project, because we will be evaluating their attitudes after the programs with those of people who did not. The downsides of this method is that it's not a randomized method. It also requires relatively many assumptions. In case those assumptions are not met, we opt for a fallback pre-test, post-test approach. With this, we will be evaluating the attitudes of participants before the program with the attitudes of these same people after the program. This will still allow us to check for significant changes in attitudes, while requiring fewer assumptions than the differences in differences approach. Again, this is not a randomized test, and it will be more difficult to control for lurking variables. For this method, we will also need a base of participants before the program, which also risks survey fatigue as we will be surveying the same people twice. To strengthen this approach, we will also draw a random sample from the population, consisting of peers of our participants, being educators, parents, children from Johannesburg. This will be an additional check for impact, as we can compare the attitudes of this sample from the general population with the attitudes of our participants after the program and see if there's a significant change. It will also be an inclusivity check. If the attitudes of participants before the program are not similar to those of people from the general population, this might point out that our participant group is not very representative of the actual population. This approach will also provide Play Africa with information about its target population, which can serve as a need assessment for further program expansion. Again, this is not a randomized approach and also requires the cooperation of outsiders who did not receive services from Play Africa. Then, we will also apply meaning we will observe events and workshops of Play Africa in real life. This will be very useful to evaluate immediate outcomes, like whether people are actually mingling and interacting with exhibits. It's also easy to implement and cost-effective, and will provide an opportunity to provide clarification and meaning behind the numbers we have from our quantitative approaches. However, for this method, we require ongoing activities or recordings of previous activities to actually observe. And then there's a generalizability issue. Observing a single or some workshops might not deliver results that are generalizable to the entire program. We also have an overview of our semi-experimental approach in this slide, with more detail about description, the assumptions, and data requirements.
I would like to now talk about the GIST data collection methods. We will use standardized tools adapted to ensure that they are effective and that the results are comparable between all stakeholders and programs. We will be using creative techniques to ensure we incorporate the opinions of children through tools such as sticker pooling, jar voting, and word clouds. These methods will be engaging, evaluative, and encompass learning to play principles that align to programmatic outcomes. As we are working with children and vulnerable populations, we must protect our stakeholders and ensure their safety. In addition, appropriate consent will be required prior to participation in the survey process, and data will remain anonymous and abide to privacy laws. Lastly, our innovative approach is technologically based using open source software, which will reduce costs, increase time efficiency, and be environmentally friendly. This approach also supports our COVID-19 contingency plan as it is adaptable to various situations and future situations that arise. GIST is aware of the evaluation limitations in small organizations, and we are offering two options, an ideal methodology and a fallback option if assumptions cannot be met. GIST will conduct an external random population comparison to strengthen any findings from the above approaches. We will be using both qualitative and quantitative methods to maximize our data quality and ensure that these methods are non-intrusive, feasible, while ensuring that objectives are accomplished. We have aligned our evaluation questions to outcomes identified in Play Africa's theory of change. An important part of GIST's methodology involves a theory of change workshop with participants that will result in intentional sharing, planning, prioritizing, action, and learning. This will help us determine areas of needs and areas of improvements and potentially update the current theory of change model that is in place. GIST proposes a 6-week evaluation plan that involves the following deliverables: an evaluation plan, an implementation, data collection tools, an updated theory of change, and a final report. This plan also has a contingency COVID adaptation in place. Our estimated budget is between 140,000 to 210,000 rand. However, GIS is sensitive to Play Africa's to Play Africa as it is an NGO and is more than willing to negotiate as we see great value in the work that Play Africa does. GIS has conducted a competitive analysis as to why we are the best option for Play Africa. Due to our cultural context, our past work experience, our cost-effective strategy, and our adaptive methodology, we are the best for this project. As a result of this presentation today, we want to leave you with these 3 key takeaways. The evaluation outcome. GIS plans to evaluate the potential change that Play Africa aims to create in the attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors of its participants and society at large.
GIS will use an innovative approach, combining participant-informed research with a carefully considered and cost-efficient methodology using adaptive technological tools.
Global Impact Solutions value sustainability. Using the evaluation learnings, we will contribute to improve sustainable impact pathways and capacity building within Play Africa. We'd like to acknowledge Play Africa, Colisa Management Services, and Clear Evaluation's gLocal 2020 Week. Thank you for your time and consideration. We look forward to hearing from you.